Have you ever wanted someone to think about you constantly, even when you're not around? Not just remember you, but crave you, replay your words, wonder where you are, feel a pull they can't explain and a need they can't shake. What if you could make that kind of impact, not through tricks or empty charm, but by understanding what truly grips the human mind and bends it toward obsession? The truth is, most people chase approval. They try to impress. They give more, reveal more, and hope it's enough to be wanted. But Machiavelli understood something deeper. People don't obsess over what they fully understand. They become fixated on what stays slightly out of reach, what rewards them inconsistently, and what mirrors something they secretly long for but can't fully define. That's the real formula: unpredictability, emotional power, and perceived scarcity. It's not about manipulation. It's about mastering how attention, value, and emotion interact. Every obsession starts with emotional curiosity, a gap between desire and certainty. When someone can't predict you, they begin to monitor you. When they can't define you, they begin to chase definition. That's how you begin to live rent-free in someone's mind. And the beauty of it? It has nothing to do with looks, money, or status. It's about energy. It's about understanding how the human brain latches onto experiences that are emotionally inconsistent but powerfully rewarding when they hit. The more unpredictable the reward, the deeper the addiction. That's not theory, it's how we're wired. So why should you care? Because you've spent too long being easy to access, easy to read, easy to forget, and it's not your fault. You were taught to be open, to prove yourself, to be nice. But niceness doesn't create obsession. Predictability doesn't leave a mark. You're not here to be liked by everyone. You're here to magnetize the right minds with the right intensity. And that starts by becoming emotionally compelling. That starts when you stop trying to be understood by everyone and start becoming unforgettable to a few. This video isn't just about making someone obsessed with you. It's about reclaiming your presence. It's about becoming the person who doesn't need to over-explain, overgive, or overstay. The person who walks into a room and creates tension without saying a word. The one people talk about when you leave, not because you demanded attention, but because you created an emotional shift. And when you know how to do that, you stop chasing love. You become the one it chases. Stay with this until the end, because each step ahead will strip away the noise and reveal exactly how to transform yourself into someone they can't stop thinking about. Someone who triggers longing, curiosity, and attachment without ever losing control. You're not here to beg for attention. You're here to become unforgettable, and it starts by understanding what truly makes a mind obsess and how to step into that power with ruthless clarity. Obsession doesn't begin with what you give, it begins with what you withhold. When you make yourself too easy to reach, too quick to reply, too eager to please, you dissolve the tension that creates emotional gravity. People don't crave what's handed to them without effort. They crave what feels rare, and nothing is more valuable to the human mind than what it can't access easily. This is the principle of scarcity, not as a tactic, but as a way of being. When your presence feels limited, your value multiplies without a single word. If you're always available, you become predictable. And predictability is the enemy of desire. You were never meant to be everywhere at everyone's call, responding to every text like your self-worth depends on it. Because every time you do, you shrink your aura. You become ordinary, familiar, easy to figure out. But when you begin to limit your access, when you make your time, your attention, your energy feel exclusive, you create emotional inflation. You become the prize. And in that shift, people don't just notice you, they start needing you. This isn't about playing games. It's about remembering your worth. It's about understanding that attention is a currency, and if you keep giving it freely, it loses its power. Your silence, your delay, your distance, they aren't passive. They're signals. Signals that say, "Why am not desperate? I am not common. You don't get all of me just because you want to." That message plants itself deep in the subconscious. It makes people question, wonder, wait. And in that waiting, the emotional bond begins to tighten. When someone has to work for your presence, they become more present. They pay more attention. They value every moment. Think about that. Every second of absence amplifies the weight of your return. You don't even have to say much. You just show up, and the impact is felt. That's not because you changed. It's because your presence is no longer taken for granted. And once someone starts fearing the loss of your attention, obsession has already begun to take root. If you want to stand out, you must stop giving yourself away like you're trying to be chosen. You are the chooser, the one who understands that less access equals more desire. That silence speaks louder than explanation. That withholding is not weakness, it's power. True obsession doesn't come from overexposure. It comes from strategic absence. From intentional distance, from becoming something they can't fully have, but can't stop reaching for. This is your permission to stop overgiving, to stop proving, to step back without fear and let your absence do what your words never could. Because when you stop being available to everyone, you become unforgettable to the right ones. And in that space of scarcity, your value doesn't decrease. It explodes. This is how you begin to reshape every dynamic, from one where you chase connection to one where others crave yours. You are not meant to be accessible. You are meant to be irresistible. Desire fades when the outcome becomes certain. When someone knows they have you, when every emotion is predictable, when every response is expected, they stop reaching. And the moment they stop reaching, they stop feeling. Because feeling isn't born in comfort, it's born in contrast. The mind doesn't become obsessed with calm predictability. It becomes obsessed with tension, uncertainty, and emotional movement. If you want to stay unforgettable, you must become the person who creates emotional friction, not chaos, but contrast. The kind of presence that never fully settles, always a little out of sync, always a little unpredictable. This is where obsession truly begins, not in giving more, but in giving unpredictably. When someone doesn't know what version of you they'll get, their attention sharpens, their focus narrows. They scan every word, every pause, every look, trying to decode what it means. That decoding process is powerful. It creates a loop of attention. The brain keeps coming back, trying to resolve what it can't quite understand. And in that loop, attachment deepens. You become the puzzle they can't solve, but can't walk away from either. The key is to be deliberate. You're not erratic. You're not careless. You're controlled, strategic. You give warmth and then coolness, presence and then pause. You're not confusing them. You're stirring them. You're creating emotional gravity, and gravity doesn't need to explain itself. It just pulls. You give just enough to keep them leaning in, but never enough to feel complete. That gap between fulfillment and uncertainty is where obsession lives. When someone never knows exactly where they stand with you, they invest more emotionally. Not because you're cruel, but because you're not desperate. You're not seeking validation. You're not clinging. You're centered in your own value. That centeredness creates mystery, and mystery breeds desire. The more they feel they almost have you, but not quite, the more they spiral into craving. Because the human brain is addicted to resolution. And you've become the unresolved equation that keeps them awake at night. This is the art of emotional unpredictability, not as a tactic, but as a form of power. A presence that doesn't beg to be understood. A rhythm that can't be danced to on command. You don't owe anyone consistency if it means sacrificing your edge. You don't owe sameness just to make others comfortable. You're not here to be safe. You're here to be unforgettable. Ha! And unforgettable means unexpected. So shift your energy. Don't respond the same way every time. Don't reveal everything. Don't let others map your emotional blueprint. Be kind, then cold. Be close, then distant. Let your energy become something they can't control. Because the moment someone feels they have you completely, they stop chasing. But if you can keep them just unsure enough, just hopeful enough, they'll never stop coming back. That's how obsession is built. Not through effort, but through energy, through mystery, through emotional contrast that keeps you just out of reach and always on their mind. People don't become obsessed with you. They become obsessed with how they feel about themselves when they're around you. That's the truth most never realize. Obsession isn't built by being impressive. It's built by being a mirror, a reflection that reveals something they crave, something missing, something deeply emotional. If you can hold up that mirror without exposing your own hunger for approval, you create a connection that feels electric. Not because you said the right things, but because you made them feel seen in a way no one else does. Human beings are wired to seek validation, to chase meaning, to find someone who reflects their deepest emotions back to them without judgment. When someone looks into your presence and sees their own worth, their own dreams, their own identity beginning to form, they start to link that emotional high to you. You become the trigger, the catalyst, the one they subconsciously associate with feeling alive, valuable, understood. And once that association locks in, it doesn't let go easily because they're no longer chasing you. They're chasing the version of themselves that only exists in your presence. The most powerful influence you can ever hold over someone isn't control, it's emotional resonance. Making someone feel heard without them needing to explain. Making someone feel desired without overexposure. Making someone feel significant in a world that constantly makes them feel invisible. That kind of presence isn't loud, it's not flashy, it's subtle, calm, intentional, and it's rare. Most people either smother others or disappear completely. But when you find the balance of being just present enough to reflect value without collapsing into need, you become unforgettable. You don't chase. You don't overgive. You read. You reflect. You observe. And when you do speak, you speak to the part of them they don't show the world. That's the layer where obsession grows. Not in surface conversations, but in the emotional undercurrent, the one that makes someone feel like they've finally been found. That level of connection doesn't happen through performance. It happens through presence. Deep, still, controlled presence, the kind that doesn't need to impress because it knows its worth. This is how you move from being noticed to being needed. When someone realizes they can be more of themselves around you than they can be alone, they begin to tether their emotions to your energy. They start measuring their mood by your nearness. And in that moment, the balance shifts. You stop being just a person. You become an experience, a feeling, a mirror they keep coming back to, not because you force it, but because you reflect something they didn't even know they were looking for. If you want to be unforgettable, stop trying to be impressive. Start being precise. Be the person who listens between the lines, who reads beneath the surface, who speaks to the part of someone they hide from the world. That's the part that attaches. That's the part that obsesses. And if you can reach it, they won't just want you. They'll need you. Need is not created by logic. It's born in the emotional gaps people carry with them, the longing to feel important, the ache to feel chosen, the craving to feel safe yet thrilled. If you want to create obsession, you must understand those gaps without rushing to fill them. You don't fix people, you awaken them. You don't give answers, you give space for their inner world to open. Most chase attention by performing louder, showing more, giving faster. But the ones who leave a mark are the ones who hold tension, the ones who can sit in silence and still make the room feel full, the ones who give just enough to stir the soul, but never enough to satisfy the mind. This is how you turn presence into power. You create a rhythm of emotional impact, moments of warmth followed by withdrawal, moments of insight followed by ambiguity. You are not a constant stream of attention. You are a pulse, a wave, a frequency that rises and falls in ways no one can fully predict. That rhythm forces people to tune in, to watch closely, to invest more, because they don't know when the next moment will strike. And every time it does, it leaves an emotional imprint deeper than the last. People don't remember what's always there. They remember what feels fleeting. The glance that lingers a second too long. The pause in a sentence that feels like it hides meaning. The silence after a moment that could have ended in explanation but didn't. That restraint is what sharpens desire. It's what makes your presence echo. You don't give all of yourself not because you're guarded, but because you're intentional. You understand that obsession isn't built in the loud moments. It's built in the spaces between them. Emotional control is the foundation. If you react too quickly, you lose leverage. If you explain too much, you kill the mystery. If you overexpress, you give away your power. Hold your reaction. Speak less. Mean more. Let them work for your validation, not because you're cruel, but because you're scarce. Scarcity isn't about playing hard to get. It's about being so rooted in your value that you don't bend for quick approval. That kind of self-possession creates an aura people feel before they understand. It draws them in, not with force, but with gravity. When they sense that you don't need them, but they might need you, the dynamic begins to twist. When you're centered in yourself, they begin to orbit you. Not because you chased, but because you didn't. Because you held the tension, withheld the overexposure, and allowed mystery to do its work. That's what they remember, not what you said, not what you did, but how they felt pulled into a current they couldn't explain and couldn't resist. That's not a trick. That's power. And when used with control, it makes obsession feel inevitable. Powerful attraction isn't created by being loud, bold, or overwhelming. It's created by being deeply rooted in your own energy. When you radiate control, restraint, and self-containment, people feel it before they even understand it. You're not pulled into their emotions, you stay anchored in your own. That stability becomes magnetic. It creates a kind of emotional safety, not through softness but through presence. You don't need to chase. You don't need to prove. You simply exist in a way that demands attention without asking for it. That is the kind of energy that quietly dominates every room it enters. When people feel your energy isn't swayed by their reactions, they begin to shift. They question their impact on you. They wonder what you're thinking, what you're feeling, why they can't seem to predict or control your mood. That emotional uncertainty opens a loop that their mind tries to close. But the loop never closes because you never give them total clarity. That's how tension builds. And where there's tension, there's investment. They keep showing up. They keep analyzing. They keep needing more. And that belief in yourself is what causes others to recalibrate around you. You are no longer reacting to the world. The world starts reacting to you. That's how people become hooked. Not through your effort, but through your strength. When they don't know where they stand, they keep returning. When they can't predict your next move, they stay focused. And when your energy becomes an experience they can't replace, you become the one they can't forget. Not through effort, but through mastery of presence, mystery, and emotional impact. Obsession is not born from constant presence. It's born from strategic absence. When you're always available, your energy becomes routine. When you're occasionally unavailable, it becomes rare. And rarity is power. People assign value to what they can't easily access. The less they see you, the more they imagine you. The less they hear from you, the more they analyze everything you've said. Your distance becomes louder than your words. It creates space where desire builds, where longing sharpens, where memories replay. You are not forgotten in silence. You are magnified. Scarcity triggers value. It's not a game. It's human nature. We chase what pulls away. We respect what sets boundaries. And we obsess over what we can't fully have. Tover. But to do this right, your distance must come from strength, not insecurity. Not the silence of avoidance, but the silence of control. Not the withdrawal of fear, but the withdrawal of purpose. You remove your presence to create weight. You remove your energy to increase demand. Not to punish, but to elevate your value. When people know you can disappear without warning, they stop taking your presence for granted. Every message you send feels like a gift. Every glance feels like a window into something rare. You are not predictable. You are not needy. You do not linger where you are not deeply valued. That mindset alone transforms how people experience you. It builds an invisible tension that pulls them back in when you leave. Because absence, when used with precision, becomes a mirror. It reflects their attachment. It shows them how deep they've sunk. It reveals what your presence was really worth. Most people flood others with attention hoping to feel needed. But obsession isn't built through saturation. It's built through calibrated exposure. You allow just enough to stir desire, then you step back. Not forever. Just long enough to remind them that your energy is not free. Your time is not common. Your presence is not disposable. This is how obsession begins. Slowly, subtly, with a feeling of missing something, with a tension they can't name, with a craving for more of what you never fully gave. Let them feel your absence. Let them wonder. Let them sit in the silence. Not because you're trying to manipulate, but because you understand the psychology of presence. What is scarce becomes sacred. What is common becomes ignored. And your value is not in how often you appear, it's in how deeply you're remembered when you're gone. You do not chase. You do not beg. You do not remind people to see you. You allow your absence to do what words never could. You allow space to intensify your impact. And when you return with gravity, with silence behind you, with energy sharpened by restraint. You become unforgettable, not through noise, but through scarcity, not through effort, but through control. And that control is what draws people in until they can't let go. To make someone obsessed with you, you must become their emotional contrast. In a world that feels flat, predictable, and emotionally dull, you must stand out as a sharp edge. You don't have to be loud. You don't have to be dramatic. You just have to create emotional movement. Most people live in numb autopilot, bored of conversations, bored of routines, bored of each other. But when someone disrupts that emotional flatline, it leaves a mark. That's where obsession begins, not with logic, but with emotional spikes. You make them feel something they weren't ready for. You awaken a part of them they didn't realize was asleep. Obsession is not created by agreement. It's created by intensity. You don't have to be agreeable. You have to be felt. Deeply, powerfully, emotionally. You're not aiming to be liked. You're aiming to be unforgettable. That means embracing polarity. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will like you. But the ones who do will feel you with a level of force they can't explain. You trigger thought. You challenge comfort. You shift their state. You leave a trail in their mind that lingers because it wasn't just what you said, it was what you stirred inside. This is the psychology of emotional addiction. The human brain is drawn to highs and lows, to contrast, to shifts. It seeks emotional novelty because emotional novelty feels like importance. If you make them feel something different, excitement, confusion, clarity, desire, chaos, they remember you. Not because they chose to, but because their nervous system did. Emotional novelty becomes a hook, and the brain keeps returning to what made it feel alive. That's what obsession really is, a craving to feel something they only associate with you. Don't strive to be stable if stable means boring. Strive to be grounded but dynamic. Show them emotional range. Make them laugh, then go silent. Be affectionate, then distant. Speak deeply, then pause coldly. You're not unstable. You're creating emotional texture. You're giving their nervous system a reason to return. A reason to chase. A reason to chase. A reason to miss. Flat energy fades fast. Charged energy builds memory. And memory is what obsession feeds on. When you understand this, you stop over-explaining. You stop diluting yourself to be palatable. You start leaning into your emotional power. You speak with force. You pause with weight. You move with presence. And when you leave, you don't explain why. Because obsession doesn't form through closure. It forms through unfinished moments, unanswered questions, emotional spikes that leave a crack in certainty. To make someone obsessed, you must be the one who cracked through the numbness, the one who brought feeling back into a space that had gone dull. You must be the emotional contrast that rewires their expectations. Not by begging for attention, but by knowing your emotional impact is your greatest weapon. People don't obsess over neutral. They obsess over what moves them. And when your energy becomes that movement, you never leave their mind.